Today, we're going to talk about a legend in the Mexican scene that sadly passed away early this year, but he is still very underrated and was a very important factor into making the music scene as big as it is in the northern part of the Mexican states. The man we're going to talk about today is Milo Melendez, a man who had a lot of influence in a lot of music groups in the northern part of Mexico and was an important factor into shaping them. So let's get right into the story. Imagine growing up in a tiny ranch town on the northern border of Mexico where the only thing you see is cattle and roads, and sometimes you hear the accordions and other music sounds. In that place called Ojinaga, music isn't learned in school. It's a thing of culture. And in that environment came a man who would write hundreds of songs and help shape the sound of an entire region and influence some of the highest and biggest norteño bands in Chihuahua. But outside of the northern part of Mexico, many people may have never heard of his name. His name is Milo Melendez, one of the hidden architects in the norteño sound. Ojinaga sits right on the border with Texas. Today, it's known as a hub for norteño music, but in 1952, it was simply a rugged ranching town surrounded by desert and farmlands. On December 23rd of that year, 1952, a boy named Miguel Ángel Melendez Pantoja was born in a rural ranch called Charco de Peña. His parents, Cirillo Melendez and Rosa Maria Pantoja, raised their children in a traditional northern Mexican household. Life was simple for them. They worked with cattle, they helped their family, they attended local parties and listened to accordion music at community dances. And like many kids in the region, Milo didn't grow up dreaming about the fame. He simply grew up around music. One of the most important relationships in Milos Melendez's life started when he was young. He became friends with a local boy who would later become one of the biggest norteño singers of his generation. That man was Polo Urias. The Urias family was full of musicians. Their music was often filled with instruments, rehearsals, and jam sessions. For young Milo, this was like entering a completely different world. He watched closely, he listened carefully, and slowly music began to call him. By 1971, Milo was 19 years old already. That was the year he got his first real chance to perform. He joined a local group formed by the Urias brothers called Los Jilgueros del Arroyo. They weren't famous, they weren't rich, but they were playing real gigs. They were around in weddings, small dance halls, ranch parties, and border town bailes. This was the traditional way norteño musicians built their career at that time. No internet and no record labels, just pure hard work. That same year, in 1971, Milo Melendez wrote his first original song. The name was Me Tocó Perder. It was a classic norteño heartbreak song, the kind that resonated deeply with working class audiences. Years later, the song would be recorded by Los Rebeldes del Bravo, and it marked the beginning of something huge because Milo Melendez eventually would write more than 400 songs. Milo found himself in a hard situation that led him to move into the United States like a lot of people have. In 1976, he moved to Odessa, Texas. He worked hard like many immigrants, but music never left him. Soon, he was invited to join the rising norteño band Los Rebeldes del Bravo, which they performed his first song, as you guys know. But later on, when he was with them in Odessa, Texas. They performed in places like La Cumbia Club, local dance halls, and border town venues, and the crowd loved them. And Milo Melendez started to prove himself as a songwriter. In 1978, Milo recorded his first official record, a small 45 RPM vinyl featuring 2 songs. Those songs being Mi Sacrificio y El Gato Negro. For a young musician from a ranch from the outsides of Ojinaga, holding that record in his hands was a massive moment for him. It meant his music would travel far beyond the border towns for him. And throughout the 1980s and 1990s, Milo moved through several influential bands in the Chihuahua norteño scene. He would work with groups like Los Rebeldes del Bravo, Los Rieleros del Norte, Conjunto Frontera, and La Ley del Bravo. In 1984, he joined Los Rieleros del Norte just as they were beginning to explode in popularity. During this time, one of the most famous songs emerged, Preso de Amor, and that was his song. He wrote it and he recorded it. Later, in 1987, he became the lead vocalist of Conjunto Frontera during its earliest formation. And in the early 90s, he helped record several songs and albums with La Ley del Bravo. While some musicians became famous for performing, Milo became something equally powerful, a songwriter for the entire region. His songs were recorded by artists like Conjunto Primavera, Los Norteños de Ojinaga, Polo Urias, and Los Rieleros del Norte. His lyrics often talked about heartbreak, love, border life, and working class struggles, the everyday emotions of the northern part of Mexico. And as you guys saw during the 1980s and 1990s, something special happened in Ojinaga. Several bands from this border town began dominating the norteño scene. Groups like Los Rieleros del Norte, Conjunto Primavera, and Norteños de Ojinaga. And in the middle of that movement was the pillar, Milo Melendez. He was not just a singer, but a songwriter, connecting all of them at once. His music helped define the emotional style of the Ojinaga norteño sound as itself. Even though he traveled and performed across Mexico and the United States, Milo never forgot where he came from. Ojinaga always considered him one of its own, and locals proudly called him El Orgullo de Ojinaga. Over his lifetime, he wrote more than 400 songs and helped shape a musical culture that continues today. Milo Melendez may not have been the most famous name in the Mexican music scene, but behind the scenes his influence was everywhere. In the songs of the northern Mexico, in the voices of countless bands from that region, he will always be remembered as one of the greatest songwriters of Chihuahua.